All right, everybody, I'll remind you that, and if it's your first time joining us, what we try to do is we try to stay on the same topic until that topic is exhausted, and then we'll move on to the next topic. And if you'd like to speak to a topic, comment, or if you'd like to ask a question, the way to put your hand up is not to hold it in front of the screen, because I don't have everybody's image in front of me. It's to move your mouse, and at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a toolbar open up that says participants. And if you click on that, you'll see a list down the right-hand side of your screen, I expect. And that has the ability for you at the bottom of it to raise your hand or lower your hand if you want to ask a question. So let's try and stick to that. It seems to work well for us from previous town halls. And let's open the floor. Who has the first question they'd like to bring up? John from the Witness Protection Program. John, you want to go ahead and you want to add your last name, John? John Schulstani, why don't you go ahead?
Thank you. Can you hear me, Mayor Billington?
I can hear you, thanks.
Thank you.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Thank you. I have a suggestion for the public hearing schedule for September 14. I would like to propose that the meeting be actually start at 5 p.m. instead of 6 p.m. or the council meeting that follows after that start at 8 p.m. instead of 7 p.m. because I believe the 50 minutes of time slot allocated for the public hearing on September 14 is not enough. I believe the council must allow all concerned upland owners. I believe the council should allow all the upland owners who are concerned to raise their concern. And we have about 60 upland owners on Marine Avenue and St. Clair Road whose rights are going to be destroyed on September 14th, and I believe that they have a say on that hearing, and that's why I request that instead of 1 hour or 15 minutes, the hearing be actually extended to 2 hours.
All right, probably the biggest council agenda of all time is going to be on the 14th. So in ensuring we have enough time to get through the council agenda, if we haven't exhausted everybody's feedback during the public hearing, we'll just have another public hearing. And there's nothing that gets passed on September 14th, period. So there's no risk to having another public hearing after if we exhaust the time that's set up for the public hearing on the 14th ahead of the council meeting.
So if I heard you correctly, you are going to extend the time of the public hearing past 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. But how long the public hearing going to last? And if there's not enough time, the council, or are you going to stop the public hearing and postpone it for another public hearing?
It's almost like I'm going to try this again. We have a massive council meeting, so we have to start on time for the council meeting. If the time allotted for the public hearing does not satisfy the need for public feedback, we can have another public meeting scheduled at another time.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to make sure at this point. Thank you.
All right. Any other hands? Nothing up, guys. Deborah and Peter Struck, go ahead.
Is a way for me to really.
I'm just wondering. So for the public hearing, is it supposed to be to do with a particular topic? Because I haven't seen anything to do with it.
Yeah, I believe it's focused entirely on the OCP amendment, which is to support the new dock applications for the Bedwell Bay and the shared or single docks for the restricted area by the port.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
No problem. Ben, go ahead. Ben. Going once, Ben. We can come back to you.
Can you hear me?
No, you can't run 3 computers in your house side by side, Ben.
Can you hear me okay, Mayor Belenki?
I can hear you. Go ahead. Ben,
Hello.
go ahead.
Yes. Thank you. With respect to the public hearing, I had a further question. My question is, I think the notice, well, we haven't received any notice of the public hearing to begin with. And also, I think we need to make sure, given the pandemic, I think we need to make sure that all the stakeholders, especially those who will be affected by this, by the council meeting following the public hearing, are notified and are aware of what is actually happening. I haven't seen any evidence of that. Sorry,
I don't know when the notice is going out for the public hearing. It'll be done according to the rules, and it will be widespread. And it's not the only chance for feedback. It never is. So there's going to be lots of opportunity for feedback in advance of any decisions.
I guess in particular, I guess I have a concern. I have a very deep concern about one specific matter which was brought up by the chief admin officer on July 20th. If I heard her correctly, Lorna Dysart said, going forward, the upland of the village will be the upland owner. So just to reiterate, Lorna Dysart on July 20th said, following this council meeting, that the resolution that you intend to pass, going forward, the village of Belkara will be the upland owner. That is actually a very significant statement, and it has many consequences and many negative consequences for the residents and the owners on both Marine Avenue and St. Clair, which I estimate to be over 60 residences. That is very significant. I think we shouldn't take it. We should take it seriously. We need to make sure all the owners on Marine Avenue and St. Clair Road are aware of what village is going to do and what will be the consequences for them. So I just wanted to make sure that you will make everybody aware of what you're about to do.
Yeah, I'm happy to. And it's worth clarifying that the village has always been the upland owner. The highway encroachment area from day one has always been the village's property and will continue to. So for whatever reason you are not clear on that, the village has always been, and as the HEA and controls the HEA, will always be the upland owner.
So to clarify, Mayor Belenki, what I am referring to is the definition of the upland owner in the village bylaw 411.
You're getting into the legal area, Ben, and so
excuse me,
that's
Mayor,
strike
it's
one.
not.
That's strike one. Okay.
This is about the residents.
Just a second. No, stop for a second, Ben. First off, the presentation of the recommendation or the report from council hasn't been presented to council, never mind to you. And so at that meeting, we will all have, on the Friday before the meeting, the report from the village as to what staff's recommendations are for us to consider as residents and council. So there's nothing yet available for us to consider. And because we are currently in litigation, you can't talk about that anyways.
Excuse me, I'm not talking about any litigation here. I'm simply talking about the right of St. Clair Road, Marine Avenue property owners that is conferred in the village bylaw 411. I'm talking about the owner.
Ben, just before you get too far into this, there is nothing that we are talking about 411. There is no changes to 411. 411 is not being addressed. It's not even going to be talked about. 411 has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with what's happening with the OCP amendment.
Well, Lorna Dysart referred to the definition of the upland owner at the last council meeting before this public hearing and council meeting for September 14 was scheduled. So I think I'm not mistaken by thinking that the village intends to change the definition of the upland owner as defined in the village bylaw 411.
You are absolutely wrong. You are incorrect. And if you think that you're not incorrect, I can assure you that you are incorrect.
So are you basically retracting Lorna Dysart's statement when she said going forward the village will be the upland owner? Am I hearing you correctly?
The village already is the upland owner. The HEA, the highway encroachment area, is owned by the village.
Excuse me, Mayor Belenki. I am talking about the definition. I'm not talking about whether you feel or think that the village is the upland owner or not. I'm talking about the definition. It's a clear, explicit definition. In the village law or bylaw 411, there is an explicit definition for the upland owner. I'm asking whether the village intends to change that definition, that explicit definition that says.
For the second time, we are not touching 411. So the definition will not be touched.
Okay, but okay. Now, I guess my follow-up question is.
But you're getting to the end of your time, Ben. Ben,
so I'm just.
Ben, we are going to be sharing the floor here for everybody, and so you've had about 5 minutes already, and I'm not sure you've wasted a little bit of it. I'll be honest with you, because I've had to say several things twice, and so I would encourage you to ask a very short question, and I'm only going to answer it once before we move on.
So, am I understanding you correctly that the village, whether through bylaw 411 or another bylaw, is not going to change the definition of the upland owner, which is defined in bylaw 411, whether through bylaw?
That is correct for the third time. Ray, go ahead, please.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, I'd like an update on the water system. I understand that the municipality has made applications for grants to governments. Can you give me an update on that, please?
So do you mean the water system for firefighting?
Yeah, I mean, the additional pressure that we require and the extra tankage. Is there any updates on government, potential government handouts for this?
On the funding side, there are no updates. We are still in line and are being considered for the first application. There's another grant that was being looked into that was identified, and I haven't heard whether or not it was appropriate for us to be able to apply to. But we've not been declined, nor have we been confirmed to receive that initial grant application that was for approximately 3.8 million. The only thing that's really made any progress in the last, I don't know how long it's been since we all talked last. It might even been a month, with August being slow, is I was hoping for the Fire Underwriters Survey, which is the insurance body that was going to provide an audit for our village. We're going to audit our village water system and make recommendations as to the fire flow to help guide us in that decision about what amount of water we were going to be at minimum requiring, and then what we would be optimally receiving from the investment. And the Fire Underwriters Survey requires the fire chief to be able to fill out 2 short pages of information just on the fire response as part of their audit. And we went to the fire chief felt that he should get guidance from the trustees as to if the trustees from both Anmore and Belcarra would permit him to fill those two pages out. And I made a motion at the last trustees meeting to enable him to fill those pages out. He's happy to fill them out with the trustees' approval. And Anmore and Bruce and Lisa voted against the motion, blocking Chief Sharp from being able to fill out those 2 pages so that we cannot get the Fire Underwriter Survey audit performed. They blocked it.
What was the rationale?
The rationale is our fire trucks were supposed to be updated. We were supposed to have ordered a new fire truck in 2018. And the trustees at the time, John McEwen and Bruce Drake as an example, voted not to approve the fire trucks, a new fire truck to be ordered then. And so it turns out, and I didn't know this at the time, I didn't know this until a few months ago, it turns out we're 2 years overdue. And as a result, our insurance rating isn't valid for the village, neither village. And so we are ordering a new truck. The new truck was supposed to be coming in this year and it's going to be delayed until early next year. And the concern from Bruce, Lisa, John McEwen, and Paul Waverlink is that if we did, if the Fire Underwriter Survey, the FUS for short, found out that our trucks are already 2 years out of date to maintain our insurance rating, they might knock our insurance rating down until we got a new truck. And it would be very, very public that they made the decision to let the trucks lapse which is a huge decision to let them lapse, but it would be we'd be held publicly accountable. So in order to protect the insurance rating, a cover-up is underway. We're not admitting to the Fire Underwriter Survey that we have our trucks are 2 years out of date and we won't have the new one in until probably another 6 to 8 months from now. And that blocks us from being able, and that's what Bruce and Lisa voted, was to block the Fire Underwriter Survey from being able to complete their audit. And here we are. So that's the only thing that's happened in the last month and a bit.
All right, thanks.
No problem. John Shulistani.
Thank you, Mayor Welinki. I would like to confirm where you are getting the definition of upland owner from when you are calling the village upland owner. Please, if I may complete my sentence. The reason I'm saying is that with respect to the upland owner, the real upland owners, we are getting the definition from 3 different sources. The first one is from the first one we are getting it from the Village of Belcara bylaw 411, Schedule B1, where the upland owner is clearly defined. The second location we are getting the upland owner from is from the riparian rights of the common law. So the upland owners, the residential upland owners on Marine Avenue have those rights. And the third location we are getting the upland owners from is through the Land Title Act, the BC Assessment website, and the Port of Vancouver, who sent the upland owners a direct email, a direct letter advising them that they can apply to the loan. So I wondered, where did the village got their upland ownership definition from? Thank you.
The village has not put out a recommendation for that's going to include this definition, and won't be until the September 14th council meeting. And so before you continue to go ballistic about the definition of upland owner, because there are multiple, the first upland owner, the HEA, is the village, and there'd be a resident upland owner, upland of the village. So before you go ballistic any further in trying to determine what the definition of upland owner is, you might want to wait for the recommendation from staff as to what the relationship is going to look like and the process is going to look like for the dock applications.
Well, my recommendation is that you please cancel the public hearing, because you still don't know what you are going to propose in the council meeting and the public hearing. You cannot do it in secretive way. You have always
everybody will get the entire report on the agenda at the same time, which will be Friday before the public meeting, which is the same as every single council meeting's agenda release time. So we're all getting it at the same time, and we'll have lots of opportunities to discuss it.
Unfortunately, we don't. Unfortunately, today everybody should know that of the village of the council's malicious intention to destroy the rights, and you cannot defer it. You came to the.
You have no idea what is going to be proposed, and so for you to declare that it's a malicious intent without having any idea what the recommendation is ludicrous. By the way, the council has no interest in whatever it is that you're trying to propose this malicious intent anyways. The goal is to, as quickly as possible, give the rights to residents to be able to apply for shared or single docks in Bedwell Bay. That's the goal. And there's going to be multiple opportunities to discuss it. bylaws require at least 2 council meetings, and in this case, also at least 1 engagement session, a public engagement session to discuss. There's nothing being pushed through. There's nothing that's not going to be open for discussion, and there'll be plenty of time over the next multiple meetings to get through this.
I totally disagree, respectfully disagree with you, because I believe the village is acting in censorship, is scheduling a public meeting ahead of time without giving out the details of the public meeting, is asking the resident to shut up and not discuss about their rights until only a day or 2 before the public meeting is not appropriate. We should give
I hear you.
time.
I hear you. Your point is made.
Okay, so my question is, how much time is the council going to give the proper upland owners, the residents upland owners who have common law rights to their foreshore to review and clarify what the village's intent is? Because at this point, just making a point that we are going to be upland owners by Lorna, and also not disclosing what is going to be discussed at the next council meeting, we consider as censorship and lack of whatever that you propose to bring to the village. It's total censorship.
Okay, I said your point's taken, and we're not going to have any more of the same point being made. All right, so that's enough of that. Jim Chisholm, you're next. Or Sherry.
Maybe you can hear me now.
Got you.
Am I there?
You are. We can hear you.
Okay, I wanted to ask, when you open up Bedwell Bay to applicants, does that paperwork come from the village, or does that application for a dock come from the port?
My understanding, again, this has not been presented to us yet. My understanding, it is a port application. Yes. And it has the opportunity to have the village ask some additional questions, but the port application is the foundation for every application.
Okay, and the other question I have was, is there a map yet that shows clearly where there's spots available to have a dock built?
I struggle to find. I don't have a whole lot of confidence that there either is a map that's showing the current number of spaces, or there's an original map that shows where there were spaces that might have changed up to the current map. Okay. It's not been clear to me. So we're going to we'll see that on the 14th, or we'll see that on the Friday before that meeting. And we'll hopefully have lots of maps and other things included in that as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
No problem. Don Babineau.
Perfect timing. I just finished the salad. Right on. Okay, so we're 27 minutes in to this meeting, of which about 25 of them have been dedicated to this upland owner issue. So did I hear you correctly that we're not talking about that anymore?
Correct. Okay. Unless there's a new question from someone else, but not from either Ben or John.
All right, thank you. The comment about FUS and it being blocked now, we were waiting for the report from FUS and then, of course, our engineer's report. And we were hoping to be able to get those 2 pieces of critical information so that we could start making our own decisions.
I don't know how to do it now.
With FUS being blocked now for potentially 8 months or 10 months or however long it takes to get a truck, what's our options there in terms of getting the FUS opinion again?
We don't have a lot of options. I was the only one who wanted it, who was willing to, unleash, stop the cover up. So Metro Vancouver has been asked to come back with its opinion on the risk of whether or not the FUS would actually downgrade us if we admit that our trucks are in fact in violation of they're not consistent with the requirements for our existing offering. They're going to come back with the exact same thing they said in the meeting, which is it's up to the FUS. The fire chief and Metro Vancouver and I have talked, and we all think It is an extremely small risk. The FUS, if they know that we're purchasing a new truck and we have a timeline, they're not there to punish us. They just want to make sure that we get in line. So if we admit to them that we're not in line, but we show that we're going to get in line, then most likely we're not going to have any concerns. And that's pretty consistent. Nobody thinks it's a high risk. The biggest risk available to us is that they downgrade us until the new truck comes in. But we don't deserve the fire rating anyways. And so if it's not a fire rating that we could actually, it's not consistent with our trucks. So it could be challenged anyways. And so covering up the fact that our trucks are out of date by 2+ years doesn't in fact necessarily protect us either. So when Metrovan comes back and says the same thing that we heard in the last meeting, which is that there's going to be a risk, we think it's small, we're still going to have 5 of the 6 trustees still have to change their mind that they're willing to accept that we're going to stop covering this up.
Am I correct in understanding that we were wanting to get information from FUS that would help us make a decision as to how much water we require to fight fires in Belcarra?
Correct.
Okay, so that's important information, and to have it delayed 8 months, 10 months, which will put us behind by that same amount of time I think it's unconscionable based on what you described.
I think any cover-up is unconscionable. And if you put it in line with the fact that it's safety and it's lives and property at stake, to block us being able to get that report, to empower us to make a better decision based on a very credible data body, to block that from happening because of fear of a cover-up being uncovered, and that we're already 2 years out. 2 years out, we've been going without having the truck that was supposed to have been ordered. It's not only unconscionable, the degree of selfishness and risk tolerance for, as I said, safety and property of the village is unforgivable.
And the report from our engineer, are we going to have that prior to September 14th meeting?
We'll get that in with the agenda before the meeting on the 14th.
But you'll have the report, like you've been assured that we'll have that report?
Well, there's no such thing as assurance. It's not in yet. But I asked Lorna again to check today to make sure it was going to be available for the meeting on the 14th.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
No worries. Ben Shulistani.
No. Oh my goodness.
Ben, do you have a new question?
I do have a new question. Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you got to stop asking me if I can hear you.
Can you hear me okay, Mayor Behnke?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yes, I had a question. I was wondering if you knew what was the purpose of the Marine Avenue and Sinclair Road improvements when they were built. What was the purpose of it?
No idea. I don't even know what you're talking about.
I guess, so just to clarify, my understanding of what the purpose of... Sorry, I have somebody... Okay. Yes.
I muted it. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I guess my understanding of the purpose of Marine Ave and Sinclair Road was to give road access to the properties, the adjacent properties. That is my understanding of why the roads were improved with an asphalt.
So,
isn't that true?
Do you have a question?
Yes, the question is, my question is, what was the purpose of?
Ben, you can't ask me the same question twice. Okay, it's too many times. I've already told you I have no idea what you were talking about. I don't know anything about it. It's from long before my time.
What I'm just trying to get at is that I think knowing that the purpose of the road was to give road.
No, Ben, just because you think it was something doesn't make it that, and that doesn't mean I know it. Okay, I'm going to move on. Deborah and Peter Struck, go ahead.
Yeah, it's me, Deborah.
Deborah.
I would like to suggest that when we go through the meeting, that we don't go back to people that are hijacking it. It makes it uncomfortable for those that perhaps maybe want to speak up, haven't, or they're thinking about it. It's kind of like as a classroom teacher, you know, oftentimes there'll be kids that take it over or hijack it, kind of like our Facebook page often gets hijacked. And
Okay.
Could you perhaps let certain people speak and then only give so many minutes and that's it, and just say, and I thought you had tried to mandate that it would be a topic and move on to the next. And so hopefully we can do that. But I would suggest that other people who have had their hands up, or give other people a chance, so that, and I understand the Shoeless Dandies have a lot of things they want to talk about, but we need to give other people a chance. And I do believe that Bruce Drake has his hand up with regards to the previous comment to water
Okay.
and the fire trucks.
Okay, noted. I'm giving one last chance to Shoeless Danny in case he wants to talk about water as well.
I think Bruce's hand was up before both Shoeless Dandies was as well.
The Zoom keeps it in order, so there's no way to move it. John Shoeless Danny, do you have anything to comment on for the water conversation?
If by water you mean Bedwell Bay and their rights?
No, that's something you're not allowed to talk about. Strike one. Bruce Drake, go ahead.
What did I talk about that you strike me?
Because that's something that there's a lawsuit, which you know very well.
No, what did I talk about that you did strike me?
Bruce Drake, go ahead.
Thank you, Neil. Yeah, can you hear me?
Are you
I hate to ask that.
discriminating me, or what?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah, am I clear, Neil? I'm using a headset, so I don't know if I'm coming through.
Much better, much better.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, first, my apologies. I just joined a few minutes ago, so I just wanted to flag the fact that I'm on the call. I guess I heard just the very end of the conversation. I mean, obviously, we don't share identical views as to the effect of the trustees meeting, but I just wanted to say that I think we do share interest in seeing ultimately an FUS assessment, and I think we'll get that. And I don't think what's taking place at the trustees is necessarily going to present a problem to us in the longer run. That's it, Neil.
Don, just as follow up to that, you mean Don's perspective on longer run might be 8 or 9 months until the new truck is in. Just be aware, that's what he's concerned.
Yeah, look, ultimately that's going to be how comfortable or uncomfortable the other the members of the Anmore representatives are in that. I agree. I think you and I agree on the fact that this is virtually zero risk. I mean, the FUS, they're going to want to be assured that you've got the money. They're going to want to be assured you're in the process. Both those things are true. And so I don't think it's a major risk, but we're not going to be able to convince Anmore, I think, until they see that risk as perilously close to zero.
We could have passed the vote if Lisa and Bruce had voted in alignment, because Anmore didn't have one of their counselors, one of their trustees there.
Yeah, but their chair would have voted 2-0.
Yeah, but we don't know which way he would have voted, and the fact that the fact that you and Lisa voted against, because I had a couple of follow-up meetings with Metro Vancouver. The fact that you and Lisa voted against removed Metro Vancouver's ability to represent Belcarra needing this answer for the FUS to be rushed, because it wasn't being supported by 2/3 of Belcarra voted against having the report being completed in urgency.
Okay, well, look, that's news to me, but the reality was the chair made it very clear he wanted information from Metro before he would be in favor.
Do you mean,
we were
Daryl Penner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he made that very clear. Look, the end result, as far as I'm concerned, and I've been wrong before, but the end result, as far as I'm concerned, would have been a 3-3 vote, which would have defeated it. And as I said at the very beginning, when we started the process at the meeting, I did not want to see a vote along village lines. I think that is of no value to us. It's of no value to Anmore. I'd rather be patient and try to bring them along to being as comfortable as we are with the process.
So you felt it was better to vote with Anmore in support of the cover-up than for Belcarra in trying to get the FUS the data they need in order to provide the data.
Neil, cover up is your term. I don't think there's a cover-up taking place. I don't think FUS would be remotely concerned, just as you believe that it would not. If it was a cover-up, they're not going to be concerned about it, I don't believe. And because they're an organization that deals with all sorts of these kind of anomalies, particularly in small fire departments. In any event,
The only reason
Yep.
that was made for not approving Chief Sharp from filling in that form, the only reason given was the fear that it might affect the fire rating, the insurance rating, and it's already 2 years overdue.
okay.
So,
Well,
so if it's 2 years overdue and the only fear is that that FUS will find that out, that is a cover-up by definition.
that's not what they were doing. In my opinion, that's not what they were doing. That's not what I'm hearing from them. But in any event, we have different opinions on that. We share the view that that risk is extraordinarily low, if in fact that was a motivation for them.
Don, you got your hand up? Can't hear you, Don.
There we go. Got it. Bruce, I hate to put you on the hot seat, but perhaps you could explain why you voted against it, because from what I am understanding is that this could be a delay of 8, 10, 12 months until the new truck comes in so that we have ANWR feeling really comfortable. But what was your motivation for voting against it?
I said at the meeting, when I seconded the motion, that I was concerned about creating a situation where we would have a vote that was split by municipality. The trustees obviously have responsibility for the entire volunteer fire department. I knew there was some anxiety on, well, first, it's hard to characterize, but the feedback I've had from the ANWR representatives had been they didn't know why we even wanted this, why we needed it, and why would we create a problem when there was no need for it. They didn't need to invite FUS in. There was no requirement to ask the chief to do this. I have explained why I think an FUS feedback would be valuable to us, though I frankly don't think it's the end of the world. They're an organization that's going to give, is fairly broad. They don't dictate what you require. They provide guidance. And we've heard from them before, and I think we have a pretty good idea what their guidance is going to be. It's not going to be that dissimilar from what we hear from the fire chief. They'd always rather have more water than less. They'd rather have a better trained and larger fire department than what is already there. They would rather have all the steps. And in fact, they encouraged the municipality some years ago, when we got the approval at the minimal level, that we should take all the steps we could to improve our firefighting capability. They're going to encourage us to do that. They're not going to waive. I'd be very surprised if they got dramatically aggressive in terms of what we have to do. It's very clear that the determination as to what the appropriate level of protection is the business of the local authority, in this case, our council.
I've been critical of council for not acting quick enough. And it seems, when I asked the engineer, probably 3 months ago now, when's your report going to be ready? He said in the council meeting, 6 weeks. Oh, bullshit. It's now been probably 12 or 14 weeks and we still haven't got the report.
Yeah. So
there's one delay. And I also understood that for us to make an informed decision, we want to get a report from FUS and from the engineer. Then we would have the information that's necessary for us to go back and have our discussions. And now I'm just waiting for the next shoe to drop in the weeks or months ahead. And somebody in the council is going to say, oh yeah, but we can't make those kind of decisions right now because we still haven't got the report from FUS. Which was
well, it won't be me. Look, Don, it's entirely possible someone will say that, but it certainly won't be me. I'm quite comfortable what they're going to provide guidance that'll be very similar to what we've heard from them in the past.
I don't understand when we have been, it's been delay after delay. Now, Rodans kind of mucks things up, and that changes the way people want to look at things. And now we won't have the FAO opinion, and it's taking forever to get this engineer's report. And ANWR is asking why do we need this report? Well,
yes.
If we weren't on the table saying, hey man, we think we have insufficient water supply. We need 2 pieces of information. One of those informed pieces of information is from FUS. I sure hope we made that clear. And for you and Lisa to vote against it, absolutely you need to represent our village. You're Belcarra. Yeah. And I know you're a trustee. I understand and respect that, but we need that information. I've understood all along that we need that information to make an informed decision, and now that's going to be delayed by 8 months. I think that's wrong.
And I think it would have been much worse if we'd ended up in a 3-3 vote that was defeated, that was run right along municipal lines. I've been on the trustees for a long time now, and I would much prefer to be have a positive relationship with the Anmore participants. That was clearly not going to pass. And even though I seconded it, as I said at the time, for the sake of discussion, it was clear we were headed to a 3-3.
Kim Trowbridge, I think, is on the record for seconding it, because I had to ask you guys several times to second it and you wouldn't. You said you would only if, and Kim said he would second it because you wouldn't, so we could get right to it.
Oh, well, look, I was coming in by a Zoom, Neil. I couldn't, and I had a failed, or a unit that was failing at the time, so it was hard to hear. I did say I was willing to second for the sake of discussion. Maybe Kim did, I don't know. We'll see in the minutes. But that was my intent, and I think I was quite clear about that. Anyway, look, Don's point is the key one, and Don's point is, does the presence or absence of an FUS report impact our ability to make a decision on fire flow requirements? My opinion is it does not. I mean, I think I can predict what they're going to say. I think Neil could predict what they're going to say. And I suspect our engineer would do a very good job of estimating what they're likely to say. What they're going to do is make recommendations. They don't set hard standards, and they don't impose hard standards.
But it was important for us, I thought, to get those two recommendations, one from FUS, one from our engineer. And then they may be the same, they may be different.
Yeah.
But at this stage of the game, we're talking about potentially investing millions of dollars. Having as much information at our disposal to make an informed decision is wise. And okay, so that being said, is there an opportunity to revisit, for the trustees to revisit this, given that the village really should have that information for us to make an informed decision? Can the trustees revisit that decision that was made? Or are we just going to wait for 12 months until the new truck?
Metro Vancouver is having their lawyers do a review, which they've already done. So they'd already done it before the last meeting, and they're going to present the same information at the next meeting, and there'll be nothing new. It's going to be a vote on the exact same information. This time, Anmore won't be able to pretend that they don't know what it's about. I talked with John ahead of time. John knew all about it. I called Bruce on the phone and explained it before the meeting. He didn't indicate that he was going to have any trouble with it. I called Lisa before the meeting. She didn't indicate she was going to have any trouble with it. It's a cover-up tactic to make sure the FUS doesn't find out that our trucks became obsolete in 2018 for the current standard. And the reason that the fight happened, and Rob Begg was at the meeting, so he'll be able to provide some feedback. The reason that they didn't want to do it is they didn't want to take on the risk of FUS downgrading our insurance rating. That was the reason. They just didn't feel comfortable not knowing the risk of that cover-up being exposed.
Well, and if that's the case, Neil, that's what's going to come back from from Metro.
And which means no new information, which means I don't expect a different outcome for the vote.
Neil.
Go ahead, Rob.
I actually was at the meeting as well, but I think we're missing the bigger picture here. The bigger picture is that the trucks trucks were supposed to, my understanding it's only one truck, maybe there's more, were supposed to be replaced under the last council and trustees watch in 2018. The reason they weren't replaced is because, quite frankly, the information I've been given is they didn't have the funding. They now have the funding 2 years later. So for me, that's problem number one. No funding, no order for a fire truck at that point in time. Number two, couple that with no reserves for any fire halls, et cetera, or replacement, enhancement, seismic or otherwise. I mean, the bottom line is those are the two big issues for me. I was always told that there was a reserve for the rolling equipment, which is the fire truck. And obviously there wasn't a sufficient reserve. And I believe that this new truck they're going to order is actually $150,000 less than a certain type of truck. So there's reduced amount that's going to be required to purchase that truck. There are some benefits to Belcarra. It's got the front wheels closer to the bumper so it can go up the steep driveways, etc. But I think we have to keep in mind the big picture. We're trying, I think, as the new council, to create reserves to actually have funding for these sorts of things. So I think we're caught in a pinch right here, but I don't think we should lose track of the big picture. The big picture was we were supposed to be putting away for reserves for rolling stock. Obviously, the trucks went up in price, or somebody wasn't paying attention. I don't know what the issue was, other than there was no funding. And the issue of the fire hall is exactly the same thing. Both issues are reserve funding, looking out for what's coming up, what needs to be replaced, etc. And I believe that comes back to planning. You know, when we tried to put the fire hall on the budget, was in essence, I think, probably a very poor way to try and put some planning in the village. I think the way that we actually tried to accomplish that probably didn't fit in with the charter or whatever, but in actual fact, at that meeting, Anmore is going to be putting money away, more money away than Belcarra on the side. Simply, they're going to find a way to do it.
Well,
And I think we have to
Rob, just for clarification, the way we were doing it was the right way, and it's the exact way that Anmore is going to put money aside for their fire hall. So what's fascinating is that we had it in our budget, and Bruce, Lisa, and Carolina had it removed from our budget. And in the last trustees meeting, the first thing that Anmore said when they found out what the number was, the dollar figure their residents were going to have to put away, they said they're going to create a reserve to put away more on top of that. So they're doing exactly what we had proposed to do, and Bruce, Lisa, and Carolina took it out of our budget to do it ourselves.
I think the important thing here is to keep in mind what our goal is. Our goal is we have to do better planning, and we have to plan for individual items, which Ken coming on board is now doing. It's not one big pot. There's money being put away in different reserves for different things. And I think the better that we get at planning, the better that the trustees get at planning, we won't run into these problems. If we take a look at the past, well, the past is the past. It was done a certain way, and all we can do is look forward and try and understand, I guess, the best way that we can look out for the village. I do agree when we get into this with Anmore. There's going to be some negotiating to do with Anmore. And I think that when you negotiate, it's not always great. You go through some rough patches, and I think we're going to go through that with Anmore. But I have every expectation that coming out of the end, the agreement that we get with Anmore, whether it be rolling stock, fire halls, will be amenable to both Anmore and ourselves. And it'll be fair. The bottom line is it has to be fair going forward for both villages, pure and simple. So I think those big picture things are what we really need to take a look at, and we need to start planning for the big picture items as opposed to, you know, FUS, you know, the engineer's going to tell us this. The bottom line of this is it's going to come down to a cost, and it's going to come down to what are we going to stomach for how much coverage? Obviously, the better coverage that we're going to get, the more it's going to cost us. So somewhere in there, there'll be a cost analysis that the village is happy with, and we move forward with that. But you know what I mean? I think that we have to get off of these little tiny points and look at the big picture, because if we solve the big picture, we don't have any disagreements on the little stuff.
Okay, but my comment, I'm a firefighter, and I've been anxious for a decision to be made on the subject of how much water should our village have. And as I said, I've been critical about how long it's taking. I can't help but think that behind all of this, because there's been so much opposition to the sale of road ends, which is what we are relying upon to fund a lot of these capital projects, that our members of our council are building in delays that will prevent us from making a decision on how much we need to invest in our water system to give us sufficient water flows. So I think that the road end sales have muddied things up, at least for in terms of making proper decisions for the village. Most councillors and the mayor ran on the basis of, gosh, you know, we got to take care of our village. We got to make sure we got sufficient water to fight the fires that inevitably will come. And everybody was saying it. I wish I could replay it all. And now, 2 years into your terms, I see delay after delay, and now hearing, you know, Bruce and Lisa voting against this, the other three voting against putting a reserve in for the fire hall. It goes so against what you ran on, and this is just yet another delay that's going to, you guys going to sit back and say, oh, well, we can't make a decision yet because we haven't got all the information that we need to make a decision. Get the damn information, you guys, and let's make a decision and get on with it.
All right, point taken, done. Anyone have anything else to talk about on this topic? All right, why don't you if anyone else wants to put their hand up for a new topic, Jim Chisholm, go ahead.
You're
Or maybe
muted,
Sherry.
Jim. Sherry, you need to turn your mic on.
There I am.
Okay.
I think I'm there.
We got you.
I'm coming back to an old topic. You won't be surprised. Sale of road ends. And I know there's some complications or questions about waterfront, but couldn't we move fairly quickly on the upland road ends once they're chosen? And what is the status?
Well, the report's going to be made on September 14th.
Does that mean that you're going to have a for sale sign in the ground?
Well, no, that's going to be the first, I would assume, the opportunity for the first readings on whatever recommendation that staff make for council with regards to the sale of road ends.
The recommendation as to which ones be sold?
It's coming from staff. I don't know. It's going to be a big report. It's going to make a number of recommendations.
Okay.
And remember, we can't approve anything in one meeting anyways. So it'll be at least one more meeting if that's the first one we can vote in. It'll be at least one more before anything can be done.
I'm just going to question the fact that staff are making some of these decisions. I did not elect staff. I elected.
Staff isn't making a single decision. They provide the reports, make recommendations, and council can accept those recommendations or choose to change them. And either way, council will make those decisions and vote accordingly.
Because I'm very anxious. I feel like you've done your survey and you had some kind of pricing set up. And I'm as you know, very anxious to see a for sale sign and the list of names of people who want them, whether it be neighbors or other villagers or whatever. I mean, the sooner we get those up for sale, I think that's going to take a lot of pressure off the village in many ways. And so if we have a meeting on the 14th and there's some proposal put on the table, and then 2 weeks later we do the final motion on it, maybe we're talking maybe October, we might be looking at some sales. Do you think that's even possible?
Well, I think the process is reasonable that you've outlined, as long as there's enough confidence with council to be able to make the decisions and a definitive one. And once the decisions are made, there's not much for staff, I think, to do left in order to be able to put the lands up for sale. There's going to need to be drawings, I would assume, for whatever land that's going to be set up for the sale.
We have that for the surveys.
No, we don't have it for the actual land that would be sold. So if a lot is, for example, 66 feet wide, and there's a recommendation to be able to have a path go down that lot, then we only raise the title on, let's say, 55 feet of that or 50 feet of it. And so you have to actually, you have to create a title that can actually be sold as well. And it's not going to take too long to do, but there are a couple of other steps that need to be done, I think.
Yeah, I thought that, as I understood it, the upland ones could be 66 feet wide. I thought the trail we're only on the waterfront ones to have a continued access. No. But you're suggesting they might be needed on the upland ones as well.
Well, a couple of the lots that were in the seven recommended to discuss have trails on the upland as well, and we wouldn't want to remove those trails so that people can gain access between Main Avenue and Bedwell Bay, for example.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, the process is the same for all the lots. We still have to create an actual titled lot that's available for sale. So whether any of those lots could be redrawn, and
Yes.
still have to have that issued.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
No problem. Peter and Deborah, you're muted.
There we go. Are currently trails. I'm guessing like in cities like Port Moody and whatnot, they've got these tiny trails that go between houses. So I guess at some point historically, those were road ends and they trail through and sold the lot. And I'm guessing that would be something that we should do to those road ends to create a small trail and with the house right next door. So hopefully that is something that we will do on those.
It makes sense to me. I would expect that staff's going to come back with recommendations that would include that. And if they don't, we get a chance to push them to go back and actually draw some trail space if it hasn't been included in any recommendations.
Thank you.
Anyone else with any other questions?
Yes, I have a question.
All right, David, go ahead. You're next in line.
Yeah, thank you. So on August 24th, there was an incident in front of the Swift Heron dock. I witnessed a joyful young puppy running around, and thereafter, possibly maybe 15 minutes later, I saw the dog motionless on the side of the road with a group of teens around it, trying to hide it, and I don't know what happened after that. I wanted to know if there was any, I posted this on the Facebook page for Belcarra. Nobody commented on it. I haven't heard anything. I was wondering if there was any information or if I should be contacting Animal Services or the RCMP regarding that matter.
I have no information, and if you're ever worried about safety of anybody, including an animal, feel free to call services or RCMP non-emergency line.
Haven't heard anything.
I was wondering if there was anybody in this meeting right now, because I know that the individuals that did come out of that dock were, I know that John Snell is on this call. I know that they were part of that dock. I was wondering if he had any information on the health of that dog or any of that matter.
If they want to volunteer it, they're welcome to, but if they haven't at this point put their hands up saying that they've got anything to add, so we can we'll just assume that they don't have any information for you.
And on the same note, there was the videos that I posted on the Belcarra group page. It just shows heavy traffic, vehicles parked on against the flow of traffic on the opposite side, and also people using private driveways, entering people's private properties to do turnaround points. Is there anything going to be done about that matter?
Well, we've already put on the village website our bylaw officer's contact information. So if you haven't been texting her or calling her that you see cars parked illegally, then you're missing the chance to have a positive impact in that.
And what about the use of private driveways for turnaround points?
I'm not sure what you're asking for me to do. If you want to put a gate at the bottom of your driveway, you can, but otherwise there's not any way to stop someone from turning around using a driveway off the road. All right, Don Babineau, you're up next.
When am I going to get a chance?
I'm trying to protect you. There's been a bit of an uprising with the amount of time that you've had speaking already in this meeting, John. So I'm trying to give others a chance. Don Babineau's had lots, but he's got his hand up again. And then we've got a new person speaking after that.
Well, I believe if I have done a plastic surgery, create myself white, then I was only allowed to speak for less than 5 minutes. Don.
Oh my goodness. We're not even going to go there. This has nothing, I'm not even going to get into it.
Don Babineau spoke for more than 20 minutes. I spoke only for.
John, I haven't had the same problems I've had with anybody like I've had with you and your brother. Period. Okay, and so you've been given staggering numbers of opportunities in multiple meetings, town halls and council meetings, to treat people with respect and to listen to the answers so it's a one-time answer, and to not discuss anything in which you're involved in litigation. And if you adhered to that, you'd have the same amount of leeway afforded to you that everybody else is. But you have to earn that back.
Well, what I am talking today is about discriminating my right to speak. Mr. Dab, Mr. Back.
This is a private chat room for a town hall, and you don't have any more rights than anybody else has. I'm trying to make sure everybody has an equal time to speak.
I would appreciate to be given equal rights as any white people in this community, including the.
This is not about color. This is strike two. You're disrupting the meeting, John.
What is it about then? Please explain to me.
This is a town hall for everybody to discuss village-related issues, and this is all we're going to talk about. We are not going to be talking about any of your guys' personal challenges, anything around litigation, and we're not going to be accepting comments that are discriminatory or otherwise.
What I'm discussing is about the time allowed for each person to speak.
This conversation is over. Don, go ahead.
If I can just comment on what was just stated. If it was a 20-minute conversation, that was a 20-minute conversation between three people. Bruce was involved in that, you were involved, and I was involved with that. So it was an ongoing conversation, and it wasn't just myself. The subject I wanted to ask about is the tree bylaw. It was discussed in the last council meeting, and I asked you subsequent to the meeting, why we need a tree bylaw if it's going to exclude the trees on private property. And if I remember your comment correctly, you said as well, because the village has to have some rules to follow on how we manage our trees. We've been doing that for, and I don't know if I captured that correctly or not, but we've been doing that for, oh gosh, since the beginning of time, I guess, beginning of Belcarra's time. So again, I'd just like to get clarification as to why do we actually need a tree bylaw?
The bylaw for the public areas, not on private land, the bylaw for the public areas is required to ensure that there's a process that is consistent and transparent for any decisions made about trees on public land.
Why do we need that after, since the village's inception, we've never had it. Why do we need it now?
My understanding is it's been there it's maybe, I'm not going to say ever, but there already is one. And it was the dissatisfaction with the current tree bylaw that the tree committee was formed to address.
Well, we already have a tree bylaw.
Oh yeah, and the dissatisfaction with that existing bylaw is why the tree committee was created.
Oh, Deborah can speak to it. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, and Peter had his hand up before Deborah too. Peter, did you want to chime in?
No, it was you.
Just because I wanted to do with the tree bylaw. So Don, one of the major things that we had heard and many people had experienced is with the old tree bylaw and the process for having trees done and the wording within it, because there's always this little clause that says something along the lines that staff gets to do whatever they want. So people were being treated differently to do with the process of applying to have trees cut down. You had to ask 3 neighbors all the way around you, like every which way. And then you had to post it for 2 weeks. You had to tag the tree, and one person could refute it. And it didn't have to be one of those 3. It could be somebody on the far end of the village that liked that tree and just said no. So that was probably the main thing that was happening. So, and there was a lot of things being done unfairly around that. So yeah. No, we tried to make it that it was about real critical things that needed to be addressed. And we were kind of sad with the way that Stuart turned it and leaving out some of the key things we had done. So that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Peter Boko.
Just on a lighter note, how is this application for chickens coming along?
That report is also coming out on September 14th. We have, I think for the September 14th we've got a SOFI report, and I don't remember what the acronym stands for, but apparently it's an important annual report. We have the water report, which is also another annual or biannual report necessary for our drinking water. We have the tree bylaw. We have the water system for firefighting from Chris Boyd's report. We have the chicken bylaw coming up. We have the public hearing for the OCP, as well as potentially, the actual OCP recommendations to come after the public hearing for discussion as well. So anybody who needs to be able to take their vitamins before that meeting on September 14th should do so, and make sure you got lots of caffeine on board, because it's going to be a massive meeting.
Sounds like it's going to be a long night.
I think so. It won't be a Vancouver night where they're going for 12 or 14 hours until like 2 or 3 in the morning, but yeah, it's going to be a big night.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. All right. The only people with hands up are the Shulastanis. Guys, the rope is tight. So please ask a question and let's move on. So go ahead, David Shulastani.
Yep, I had a question. I don't know why you're discriminating against me. I haven't even had any problems with you or anything. I don't know why you're referring to me in that tone or whatsoever. It's somewhat unjustified, but my general question is in regards to people altering the shoreline. Are there any regulations against that?
I don't believe people are able to alter the shoreline.
Because I don't know if you remember or not. I think it was two Saturdays ago. My girlfriend and I were at the bottom of the beach on Watson and Marine Avenue. And I remember you coming down with 3 of your kids, and you telling your kids to go ahead and remove the rocks to make it a sandy beach. I don't know if that is allowed to do that based on the riparian rights, or if there was any notification given to the DFO if you wanted to alter the shoreline.
I think if your fear is that I think it was my 5, 9, and 11-year-old, if they're strong enough to remove the rocks from the beach, then I'm going to be taking them to the Olympics. But if they want to throw those rocks in a pile beside the beach so that there's a little sandy area, that is not illegal to move rocks from one area of the beach to another.
That is why I just asked you if there was anything to be done different, and you just told me that people cannot change it, right?
No, that's not what you said.
What did I say?
Well, first off, I'd recommend next time you call the RCMP if you feel that kids moving rocks from 1 6-foot area of the beach over to the other side, you should probably call the RCMP and they can come and address it.
Why is that an RCMP matter if it's the Department of Fisheries and Oceans?
Because the RCMP do patrol Bedwell Bay as well.
I see that. Okay, definitely duly noted.
John Shulastani.
Thank you. My concern regarding dock applications, I believe there is a road in District of North Vancouver called East Ridge Road, Block B, where there is a sewer line that passes by the beach. And the residents of south of the sewer line are actually allowed to directly apply to the port. And the port requires a consent from District of North Vancouver. And my understanding, the limit or the extent of the consent is basically to ensure that any dock application is not damaging the sewer line or in any way or prohibiting the public from accessing their beaches. I wondered, why is it that our village intends to change the way we are currently running our system? Our system previously has been, each owner has been applying directly to the port, and all the expenses was on the dock members and dock applicants. Right now, I understand that the village or the council intends to bring over all the applications to the village, create a cost for the village to manage all these dock applications, or these dock fees going through the village, going through the port. I believe this is extortion, is nothing but extortion from the dock applicants and from the residents. I believe you should let the resident to deal with the port directly. Understand that there is a road, but the road is only creating a consent from the municipality to ensure the public is safely passing by on the road for the purpose of the road. there is no way for the village, and it's not in the jurisdiction of the village to restrict or discriminate against anyone who wants to apply to the port. The concept.
So there's no discrimination. The port asked Belcarra to put the rules forward as they are doing. So Belcarra is doing this in response to the port's recommendation. And whatever you think the village is going to do, unless you have a crystal ball, then you don't know, and we don't know. We'll see what staff come up with as a recommended process, but they're doing that process in conjunction with the port. So the port and the village together are refining to make the simplest possible management system and the quickest possible application opportunity for Belcarra residents to be able to apply for shared or single docks in Bedwell Bay.
Well, I'm not having a crystal ball. I don't think anybody has a crystal ball. What we all saw and heard and have it written down in the agenda of the public of the.
It's not written down yet. There's no report. There's nothing yet to review.
On July 20th, there was an agenda. There was a report done by the public staff. It is clearly said that the village wants to manage all these costs and wants to manage all the DAP application. Lorna said we want.
The port wants us to do that. Every municipality is doing that. Every municipality is responsible for administering their own waterfront now.
Well, I'll just give an example of District of North.
No, you already gave the example. Your question's been asked and answered. The port is the guy who told us we needed to do this. Every municipality is responsible for their own waterfront now, and this is the way it is.
Mike, okay, I'm going to maybe Mike.
Don Babineau, go ahead.
Different subject. Encroachments.
Hope others would also mute, same as.
Go ahead.
Encroachments. It's come up in a couple of council meetings, and at some point in a future council meeting, I'd like to hear as to what the village's current policy is on encroachments for any future encroachments, and I would also like to hear from them as to, I guess, what rights the village has on current encroachments that are already in place.
My understanding, the policy is if there's a complaint, we will respond to a complaint, but that I don't think we go proactively in any direction for encroachments.
Yeah, and I'm just, what about our policy going forward? Because it sounded like that it's kind of gotten a bit lax or soft in the previous years. Is that something that we need to have a bit clearer direction on going forward?
I'm not aware of it being lax or soft. I don't think I've heard of a single circumstance where a complaint or concern was raised that wasn't dealt with promptly.
Lorna, when she explained how councils in the past have handled it, that's kind of was my takeaway, that it's kind of gotten a little bit loosey-goosey. That's what I took from her comments. And there really isn't anything substantive that you can point to today that exists in terms of future encroachments. And I just bring it up in the context of the sale of road ends, and still haven't got a clear answer as to whether some of the road ends are going to be impacted by encroachments that currently exist, and whether we have the right to do anything about that or not.
I don't know what there are some encroachments on some of the road ends for sure, and they will be managed, and that's no question that it's going to have to be dealt with, so it will be. There isn't, I don't think, a whole lot of interest on council thus far to go and do a proactive, all-encompassing encroachment project at this point. And I know you've brought up a couple times, Don, but I don't think this is something that appears to be generating a whole lot of momentum among residents to try to go out and create an encroachment policy that would disrupt where there aren't complaints.
Maybe, so on Turtlehead, there's two houses, the two houses that burned are rebuilt now. And so that's a very current example. It wouldn't take long to determine, what the deal was that was made that allowed them to build on that, for that encroachment to take place on Turtlehead. If that was, if you look at that as the mayor and say, hey, well, that looks like we kind of dotted our I's and crossed our T's, great. And if we haven't, and it looks like it's a bit loosey-goosey, and we really don't have any rights to claw that back at some point in the future if we wanted to, then that probably bears some more thought.
The way that we've been addressing that is through improving our building permit application process and through the Board of Variance. And so my understanding thus far is we've had a huge overhaul to the building permit process for applications, which would require encroachment applications and potentially Board of Variance guidance as required as well. So I'm not aware of there being any gaps still in place for the current system, although I'm sure it can always be improved. There's opportunities within the existing building permit process where we still find miscommunications happening. So there's no question it can be confirmed, it can be improved. But with regards to encroachments, the ones that have happened in the past, there are remarkably few records available from the past. And it may not be as easy in some cases. Fortunately, the one you're describing is more recent. I'd hope that that would be something we'd have access to, but in many of the other encroachment circumstances, we don't have access to any records. It was, it's staggering to me that these things, the record keeping isn't better.
Yeah, I'm just suggesting that.
Don, I think I hear you, Don. I think I'm gonna have to move on, okay? But I hear you. Your point's taken.
No problem.
Jim Chisholm.
Here I am. It's
Sure.
Sherry Chisholm. I would like to speak to particularly the Shula Stannies of the gallery. I don't know if that's permitted on this Zoom meeting, but I'll try. I am a direct waterfront owner on Belcarra Bay. There's nobody in Bedwell Bay that is a direct waterfront owner. The Shula Stannies just seem to not want to recognize that they are not direct waterfront owners. They're not taxed as such, and they're not treated. And the rules for them are different than they are for a direct waterfront owner. And all this arguing that the Shula Stanley family is doing is just alienating them from the community. I have great sympathy for the family. They've had their difficulties, but it is time for them to go to court, get this settled in court, and stop interrupting all our meetings with foolish argument.
Good.
Thank you, Neil, for letting me speak.
No worries. John, your hand's up next, and you may wish to respond. You have the right to do that, of course. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. First of all, a member of the public cannot tell another member of the public what they think or do. And also a member of the public is not an expert or a lawyer to advise whether we are the upland owner or not. Based on my research, all Marine Avenue upland owners are waterfront owners. They have riparian rights. They have rights to access the water and unimpeded access to the water. There is a road allowance in front of their property. That road allowance only gives road access, was not created to give water access to.
John, you're getting into your lawsuit. So remember, that's not allowed.
What lawsuit? I'm talking about the residents on Marine Avenue. Let's talk about the property on 4116, for example, or 440. That property has a road in front to get access to their house. That road was not created for a non-Marine Avenue resident to get a dock in front of their house. There was an agreement made if somebody wants to get a group dock, they can share it with others. But you cannot tell who is the upland owner or not, or who is the waterfront or not. This is for whoever job is to decide.
All right, thank you. Deborah.
Peter.
It's actually
Peter.
So on Don Babineau's topic of the encroachments, am I allowed to officially complain about every encroachment and ask that you, if find any documents that may exist, and if you don't find them, then create documents and don't leave it loosey-goosey the way it is anymore, because it's ridiculous that that we don't create documents so that the homeowner and us have some idea what the agreement is, since we have no clue. If the village can't produce a document and the homeowner can't produce a document, there is no document, and I'm complaining about that and asking that documents be created.
I can tell you that they're being created now. But the amount of work necessary to go and try to recreate or create a degree of tracking, reporting, archiving, the amount of work will be staggering. It is mind-boggling how impossible it is to find copies of records that should be readily available. We do not have a copy of our water system's final signed plan. It blows my mind that the village doesn't have a signed copy of our actual engineer's drawings for our water system. And that's only an example of something that is, 8 years old. So the likelihood of us being able to find other documents prior to this council's responsibility, focus on process, is unlikely to be successful. And the amount of work necessary to go and recreate that is going to require additional headcount or delay of a much higher priority issues for the village.
Well, it doesn't have to be recreated, because if the homeowner can't produce one and the village can't, I suspect that in many cases it was verbal and never existed on paper anyways. So if it can't be produced by either party, then there needs to be one created. And if you don't start doing the process one at a time, it'll be the same way in 5 years.
You're correct. And so we do them as they come up, but we haven't been proactively going after them because, as you can tell, even just from the September 14th agenda, we don't have enough headcount. We don't have enough staff to be able to manage all these projects yet that we have on our table now.
Okay, well, that brings me to staff. I've been meeting a lot of people, residents in Belcarre that I had not met previously. And it's a very common problem that we believe we have too much staff already, by far. And so I don't really know what they're doing, but certainly I would suspect that there seems to be a lot of nothing being done, and the general public is astounded at how much staff there is and how little happens.
Yes.
Well, my comment would be staff are crazy busy, and if people can't tell just by virtue of the reporting that comes out in addition to just running the village, but all the different reports and all the responses to all the requests that are coming in, then there's not much more that we can do. I would encourage people who are focused so heavily on how busy staff are, or how unbusy staff are, and how much spare time they should be having. The amount of time that's being focused on trying to improve staff efficiency could be applied towards helping to make the world a better place in other areas. And so if people have the spare time to focus that carefully just on village staff or other areas of the village, perhaps they might be able to focus on something that is going to help make the world a better place.
Okay, I have another topic. My topic is to do with any signage or commentary about our resident-only parking. That is not the correct term. If you have a look at who's sitting in resident-only parking, it frequently are people who are not residents, actually. And they are people who are non-residents of Belcarre, are not paying taxes here, and they have passes and decals and all kinds of different things. And whenever referring to these, we should be referring to somebody who got hold of a parking pass somehow. Whether we have no idea who Village Hall handed out passes to, that people who don't live here, or how
we can track every pass,
or how people who live here hand them out to others to use. So I end up with people who don't live here having more ability to park than I do. I think a suggestion to make the people here who are paying taxes and live here get some of their power back would be that if we don't happen to have a pass with us, maybe we're in a friend's car, whatever, that you have a policy of allowing people who are residential taxpayers here to write a note, put it on their dash. It would say Peter Struck, give my address, give my phone number, and I'd say I pay taxes here and I live here, and I can create my own pass on demand when I actually need one, and not be outdone by people who don't even live here and have all these passes floating around.
People will often write notes on their cars and put them under windshield wipers. Many of them lie, not surprising. And many of them try to come up with all sorts of things like they would probably with an internet search to get your name and address and say it's okay for you to park there. The staff requiring the time to run the registration on every vehicle to see whether they live here or don't live here or have the vehicle registered in Belcarra is one more example of staff time we just don't have. So staff have made it extremely simple for residents to get parking passes for guests as required. They're not supposed to hand them out to non-guests, and very, very easy for residents to be able to get the parking passes for themselves. Much, much less, it takes far less time.
Well, the entire purpose of passes was supposed to be for when somebody comes to visit you. However, many of the passes are handed out to people who keep them, and when they come to Belcarra to park, they park for lengthy periods of time. They are not visiting the person who loaned them the pass, and it's all too common. And I don't believe that it is going to be. Last time that I asked you on a town hall meeting, and I was speaking on behalf of a resident who needed some more passes, you said that people were misusing them, and that seemed to be a reason for you saying that for staff to make it difficult for an actual homeowner who's not going to be violating to get one because there are abusers. So I wonder if you've reconciled that so that people who are good residents, pay a lot of taxes, are asking for one legitimately, are not having passes withheld from them when they need them.
I'm not aware of anybody misusing them or abusing them. So I don't know when I made that comment, but it's not my experience. I'm not aware of anybody having misused them. My position on this from the very start is that the permit parking, it's not resident only parking, the permit parking is in place so that residents and their guests will always have the priority for parking. And so if you're aware of people who are passing out inappropriately their guest passes, then I would hold them accountable and make sure they know that they could be ruining it for others, but I'm not aware of anybody misusing passes.
Well, if you play the recording of one of the council meetings or town halls recently, you did make the statement when I brought it up that there was abuse of it, and that was a problem, and that's why staff was being difficult. So just play back the recordings, you'll hear what you said.
Well, I don't have the time to go back for something. I apologize across all the town halls, but I'm not saying I didn't say it. I'm saying I don't remember, and I also don't know of anybody abusing the passes. So I'm not sure what I would have been referring to.
Okay. Okay, well, that's all I have for the moment.
All right, we are one hand left. John Shulistani.
Thank you. I would like to talk about a very quick note before I start my another point. We cannot call other people foolish. This is very disrespectful. I believe everybody should respect every person. Nobody's statement or thoughts is foolish. Everybody who thinks others' statement
your point's made. Thank you, John. John, your point is made. Please go ahead with your question.
Thank you. My question is regarding road ends. The road end, especially giving access residents to water. The road ends that are accessing water. Those road ends, those roads created for that area, for those lots, when the lots got subdivided to provide them access to the beach. For some reason, those roads has been either discontinued their access to the beach, or for somehow the village had some intentions that they did not do their job properly and did not maintain the road for giving those people access to the beach. So my concern is that the village should not, or the council should not sell those lands. Those lands are reserved for the people in that area, and that area should be kept for them. The council should not remove those people's access to the beach and have them come to another residence and create problems on Marine Avenue, for example. This is my concern.
What was your question, sorry?
My question is that I should have a recommendation to the village not to sell the road ends to
I got that. We got that. Did you have a question?
That was my comment to the council, not to sell the road ends.
All right, noted. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have one more.
Hang on, we're just doing one at a time now, John. Deborah and Peter, go ahead.
Hi, it's Peter again. So on another topic, which I had brought up previously, and your comment to town hall was that you had studied it and it wasn't practical. I still would like to formally ask the public in general whether there's enough interest in looking into us amalgamating with Anmore, because I'm finding this rather hopeless the inefficiency of how Belcarra is running. And I have watched a couple of Anmore council meetings. I was very impressed with how they're running the show there. I especially like the fact that they were doing surveys for particular topics to find out what the public actually thinks, rather than making them come on to a council meeting. And I think that your comment previously that you checked into it and it's not practical to do is really not fair to the process of those of us who think that it may be worth studying. I don't know if it's worth doing, but I think it is worth studying. And if anybody else would like to form a group with me to talk about that, they can find me and we will form an informal group.
So just to be clear, I haven't checked into it. So and again, this is another comment that I'm not sure what you're referencing. I have heard studies done. Now I haven't checked into it, but I've heard about studies that were done that show that there are no increased efficiencies by virtue of amalgamation. There were no cost savings. And I would, and if people want to discuss doing a merger or an aggregation, I would say Port Moody would probably make more sense than Anmore. But you know, if that's the way people want to go, then it's a 51% referendum, and it can be done. I will highlight though that on a per capita basis, you're going to be really disappointed because I think Anmore's got more than 3 times the staff of Belcarra. So you're going to find the inefficiencies there are far more intolerable than you'll find in Belcarra.
Well, it's not just staff, it's elected officials, and they're basically our siblings anyways. So, so try, you know, I'm not saying it to eliminate staff necessarily. It's more to do with the political mess that we're in now with the disoriented council, which is not your particular fault. But the reality is that you, and it not being your fault, you know, don't have a solid crew of 2 people who are going to vote with you on whatever it happens to be. And so we spin our wheels a lot as there's the council is so divided, which brings me to another point that if this was
hang on. I do have to, we've been doing one subject per question round. Okay, Peter?
Oh, okay.
All right, and then just to comment on the Anmore, one of the reasons two of the reasons Anmore's meetings are so efficient is almost no one shows up from their village to listen. And in the council meetings, the mayor doesn't allow feedback in advance of individual voting items on the agenda.
Yeah.
So we are far more open to feedback, and we have far more engagement. And because no one shows up to their council meetings, they have to do things like online surveys to try to find out what's going on because they have no other access to residents. And so that's what they're left with as a result of not having the level of engagement we have from residents in multiple things like town halls. John doesn't do a town hall either, as an example. Ash Poor.
Should list Donnie's mom, probably.
Hi.
Ash?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. I have some concerns. I would like to ask you to please stop discriminating behaviors. You intimidated my son David and his girlfriend to leave the public beach at Marine Avenue and Watson Road, knowing we no longer have access to our beach because the former mayor already destroyed.
I apologize if I scared them away. I don't even know what they look like. So maybe you can remind me what I did that scared them away.
You know, if you don't stop your discrimination, soon everyone around the world will see it and will stop you. And
I appreciate your concern, and I'll take responsibility. Perhaps you can tell me what I did when I discriminated them.
Yeah, you stood over their head and intimidated them to leave.
By standing over their head?
Yes.
So I will never stand over. I couldn't be over their head for long because there's no way I'd let my kids go down in the ocean with me being up on the road.
And wish them have a good day. And he responded, you too, Mayor Belenky, and you asked them to not call Mayor Belenky, call you as Neil.
That is the most respectful that I can be, trying to remove the hierarchy. It is the opposite of discrimination. I was asking them just to call me Neil. I think you misunderstand discrimination. There is no hierarchy when you're asking someone to just call you Neil and not Mayor Belenky.
I have a comment. I was wondering who was laughing about Ashpur speaking. I want to know who thought that was extremely humorous to them. Was that you, Deborah Struck?
I don't know. And we're not, the goal here is not to be able to have battles. The goal here
No,
is
but I was just wondering why people were laughing at the fact that Ashpur was speaking. I just really want to know.
I wasn't laughing.
You were laughing though, right?
Let her respond.
It is
If
recorded.
Deborah's the
Thank
one
you.
who made the comment, David, let her at least respond to your question.
Hi. No, I just thought, okay, because typically you will change names and whatnot. And I thought, uh-oh, that's Mom. I'm glad she spoke because she hasn't been here before. But I wasn't laughing that it was her. I was laughing that it was kind of like, okay, I guess.
I think the best option to do is to have yourself on mute when it's not your turn.
Yeah. It was supposed to be,
right? But then we caught you laughing at my mother. Is that correct?
Laughing at your
Okay,
mother.
thank you.
I'm not going to get into an argument. I'm glad she spoke. I just went, oh, gee, I wonder who that is. Somebody new. Maybe, I bet you. That's it. Sorry.
All right, let's move on. Only John Shulistani has a hand up. John, you want to go ahead and ask a question?
Thank you. I believe the issue comes when a leader in a community starts to discriminate, harass, and abuse their power. The people in the community, such as Deborah Struck and Don Bavino, start harassing as well. The leader should lead by example. So long as we are refused access to the water, they are going to do it. So far as we are refused access to public beach and being intimidated, they are going to do it. So far as you mute me when I speak, they are going to do it. They are going to see their leader discriminate. They are going to repeat it and say it publicly and laugh at people's parents, laugh at people's wives, laugh at people's sons, laugh at people who are not in their race. That's what we feel. Everybody knows. The Prime Minister said, this is the pain.
John, you've made that point. John, you've talked before about the Prime Minister. You made your point, and people need to be respectful on all sides. And if I'll give you an example, if you're looking for discrimination all the time, you may see discrimination where there isn't. And if someone says, have a nice day, Mayor Belenky, and I say, please don't call me Mayor, it's just Neil, that is absolutely not discrimination. And if you're looking so hard that you think that is discrimination, you might want to reconsider your sensitivities.
I believe you have misunderstood my mom's point. She was referring to the intimidation and asking basically through intimidation, asking them to leave the beach.
I certainly did not ask them to, no, stop, no, stop. I never asked anybody to leave the beach. And for you that's a strike for lying. So do not lie on these calls or any other call. I'll call you out on it.
Well, I said through intimidation. I didn't say you actually spoke through words. I said through intimidation and gesture by standing over them.
You know what? I didn't stand above them. I was down on the beach with my kids close to the water. So if anything happened, I would be there. So be careful what you say, because you said that I asked them to leave and I didn't. What I asked them to do is call me Neil, removing the title so they didn't feel that there was any kind of disconnect. All right, next up, Deborah, you're up again.
Okay, just to clarify, I wasn't discriminatory whatsoever. All that I've noticed over the several months of you coming on is changing names and whatnot, and I just thought it was rather fun and cute, knowing that it would be your family, and it's okay. It's okay that I'm glad like I said, I'm glad your mom came on, because that's good. You should give your mom a chance to speak. So it wasn't discriminatory.
Of course, and I don't think we're waiting for anybody to give permission to us to let our own mother speak. I'm really glad that we have your blessing.
Okay, so no, it was not discriminatory whatsoever.
Points made on each side.
Someone to speak or give
points made on both sides. Rob Begg, you're up next.
Neil, I think this meeting is pretty much hijacked, and I think we should adjourn the meeting. We're going nowhere and around in circles, and I'm going to leave the meeting now. I don't really
All right. Now, are there any new questions or comments that are town hall related and town hall appropriate before we wind the meeting down?
I just want to give a notice to Deborah Struck that.
No, you know what? The discussion's been had. She's explained herself and it's done.
She continued.
Listen, the conversation is finished. All right. So it looks like there's no other questions or comments from anybody. So we'll call this a night if there's nothing else, guys. Not the smoothest of town halls, to say the least. But thanks for everybody's patience. And September 14th, don't forget, vitamins, stay hydrated. It's going to be a big meeting. Thanks, everybody.